Hey guys, Diane here with the Green-Eyed Monster Review, and today I'm going to be doing a bookshelf tour, so hit that like and subscribe button and we'll get into it. Okay, so today I figured I would start with my top shelf. These are where I put the books I'm probably not going to read, if I'm being honest. And as you can tell, my bookshelf is not really in any particular order. I tried to kind of put it in like the biggest books, the smallest books, things like that, which whatever fit. But I'm not a super organized person, and neither is my bookshelf. But as you can see, we have some classics. Dracula, I read in, I don't know, 12th grade maybe. Brendan Sanderson, I've heard he's good. I haven't read it. Will I get to that book? I don't know. Probably not. Then we got The Strain, things like that. I have been wanting to read The Push by Ashley Adrian, but I haven't made it to it. It's an amazing cover. And then we have My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell, and I've heard that's very disturbing. Not really in the mood for that at the moment. Killers of the Flower Moon. It was really boring. I didn't get through much of it. This is my husband's, Queen of the Damned. He acts like he's going to read this book, and he never is. And then we have, actually, this is one of my favorite books, just because it was so fun, and it was a lot more character driven than I thought it was going to be. So, you know, if you want a little bit of vampire history, here you go. And then we have Isaac Asimov, the Foundation trilogy, another one of my husband's books that neither one of us are going to read. The Wizard of Oz, I thought this was just a cool cover that we got at Barnes & Noble when it was on sale. Probably another book no one's going to read. We have Dune, this big, I don't even know what this is. Leviathan Wakes. Could you guess this is another one of my husband's books he's not going to read? Okay, one more thing. I almost forgot to mention Goblin. This cover is probably better than the actual book, but this is by Josh Malowin, and it's actually signed. I got the sticker plate, which I would rather just have the signed book, but that's okay. Okay, so moving on to the next shelf. So we have a stack of graphic novels, and these are just basically issues of comics just combined to just make it a little easier to read, which is the way I like to read comics. But this is Witches. This was I don't really remember it that much. I remember liking it. The cover was really cool, so that was one that I did enjoy. I read that maybe last year. And then we have Nailbiter. This was a really good, it's like a detective kind of thing. If I remember correctly, he has like some really messed up teeth. I think that's what that was about. Northlanders was really cool. That was really bloody and grotesque, as you can cut. The Plague Widow, Blood in the Snow. So that was really good. Revival, I was obsessed with this when I first started reading. Couldn't really tell you what it's about now. It's been a long time, but I really did enjoy that. Sweet Tooth, as many of you know, this has been out on Netflix. I really enjoyed the comics. The show, I didn't really watch all that much. I wasn't really into it. The Ice Cream Man, this is more of like kind of an anthology, creepy anthologies about a twisted ice cream man, which I really enjoyed. And then we have Gideon Falls. I really liked this. I couldn't really remember what it was about, but I really did like this. Something is Killing the Children. This is kind of a witchy book. This was good. I don't know what this is. I think I probably just liked the cover and we got it. And then we have Inhumans. Another book of my husband's. Now, this is something he would read. More Inhumans. Neil Gaiman, The Sandman. I liked some of this. I'm not a huge Neil Gaiman fan, so it's not something I'm really all that excited about. And then we have House of Mystery, which this looks really cool. I forgot I even had it. And then we have Day Tripper, which this is probably my husband's. I don't really know what that's about. Let me move these to the side. And then we have one of my most favorite books, The Last House on Needless Street, my favorite book. And actually, I have 2 copies of this. My other one is actually up here, and it's a signed copy, so I'll show you that. She didn't leave her number, oddly enough, but it's still signed, so that was really cool. And then we have, let's see, Billy Summers, I haven't got to yet. Everything's Eventual. I haven't got to that yet either. I just thought this was a really cool cover, and it was like 5 cents at the used bookstore. Gerald's Game, I've been wanting to read, so I've really been wanting to read this book, and the movie on Netflix was amazing. I just haven't got to it yet. Heart Shaped Box by Joe Hill. A really cool concept, but as with many books of Joe Hill's, it falls short of the storyline. And then we have Velvet Was the Night. I got this for like $1 at a book sale. So that was, I don't really know what it's about, but Soul Catcher, this book, my husband actually got for me at the Dollar Tree. And it was just like I guess he just randomly picked it up. But this has been one of my favorite books. It was about a slave catcher who's tasked to go find this woman who's escaped. And he tracks her down and they kind of fall in love. And this book was amazing. And it was at the Dollar Tree. So I've always kept that. Next we have, I feel like anyone who's into horror has to at least have a House of Leaves book. You don't have to enjoy it. You don't have to actually read it. You just have to have it. So that's why I have that. And then we have The Child Thief. I haven't read this. This was another just strict cover buy because obviously. And then we have Razor Blade Tears. This was a pretty good book. I did a review on that, which no one really seemed to care too much about. A few Stephen King books. I have some Keelan Patrick Burke short stories, Dead of Winter. This was so depressing. I had to stop reading it in winter because there's no sunshine or happiness found in this book. So that was too much. And then we have Jack and Jill, which that is really good. I did enjoy that. I read that on the plane. Sour Candy, probably my favorite. And then we have, obviously, my girl, Anya Alborn. If you see her, I can't believe I even kept this book because I hate this book so much. But The Long Walk by Stephen King, absolute, I hate that book. And then we have Beneath. This was a cover buy because it's really cool. And I got this at a used bookstore. And these are some random books that we picked up. The Faded Sun, obviously very old, but very cool covers, very old. And probably never gonna read these. That's probably something my husband picked up again. I'm starting to think he has more books on here than I do. Some Philip K. Dick books. Like I said, not my thing. My husband likes those. I think the only, no, I haven't read any of those. Actually, I haven't read any of those. Okay, moving down. Okay, so moving down the bookshelf. First we have this little guy, this little neon it. My husband got this for me at a Nova convention because he's cool like that. So he stays there. And then most importantly, we have Slappy's World. I actually got this for my son, but he is a huge scaredy cat and hasn't read it. Probably never will. So I had to move that into my room. We have the October Boys, which I kind of did a review on that. Kind of let me down. So this is The Shadow Gardens, and this is actually book 2. I was really hoping to get to this in November. So hopefully that will be to be reviewed soon. And then we have A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. This book is twisted in so many different ways. You really need to prepare yourself if you're going to read that book. Paul Tremblay has a special kind of horror, to say the least. Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. I love anything and everything that she does. She's amazing. Before I go to sleep, that was just okay. Bird Box by Josh Malerman. I absolutely love this book. Oh man, this book was good. The movie on Netflix is also really good. So if you haven't seen that, I really encourage you to check it out. We need to talk about Kevin by Lionel Shriver. I didn't read it. I'm not going to. If I'm really being honest with myself, I tried and I just wasn't feeling it. I don't want to read that. And then we have Shutter Island by Dennis Lehane. And I've been wanting to read this for so long. One of my absolute favorite movies, but I just haven't got to it. I'm going to skip The Snowman. The Alienist. Oh my gosh, this book is beyond. This book is so good. If you haven't read this book, just drop everything you're doing and read it right now. Then you can watch the show. Haunted by Chuck Palahniuk. I haven't read all of this, but I've read enough of it to be grossed out every time I see the cover. Haven't read. This looks like a really cool cover. I haven't read it yet, but I want to. And then we have a bunch of Kurt Vonnegut. I don't know why I said that. Dead-Eye Dick. I don't know where this book came from. And then we have Slaughterhouse 5 and another Slaughterhouse 5. One of these I had in my car because I kept trying to read it when I was like in between classes and stuff and in between picking up my kids, but I just never really got into it. Not a super huge fan of Kurt Vonnegut. Later, I haven't read. Another Kurt Vonnegut. I ordered this for Christmas one year, Victorian Christmas Ghost Stories, and as cool as that sounds, it's very boring. So, yeah, not a fan. Lovecraft Country, haven't read. The Child Finder, one of my most absolute favorite books of all time. Let's see what else we got over here. Deadfall Hotel, strictly covered by, haven't read it yet. For $3. Annihilation, those are my husband's. He really liked that. Let's see, what's this? The Beast That Should Love at the Heart of the World. The Beast That Shouted Love at the Heart of the World. That makes more sense. So that looks really cool. Probably won't read it just because it's so tiny. Tober Country, and I've read Pet Sematary, but I did not read this one. I just thought the cover was cool, and it reminds me of my daughter for some reason. My daughter loves cats. One of my daughters loves cats. And then moving on to the next shelf. Okay, moving on. So on this shelf, we have The Lonely, which I took this to the beach, and I totally ruined it. I need to get a new one. I haven't read all of that. I really want to get back to that book because I really did enjoy it. Dark Matter. Wasn't a big fan of this. My husband read it. He wasn't a really big fan either. Snow Crasher, I've heard that it's if I can get that in. Snow Crasher, I've heard, is a really good book. If I'm being honest with myself, I'm probably not going to read it. Then we have Dark Harvest. I really enjoyed that book. That was on my Halloween recommendations. The Bear and the Nightingale. This is a really good fantasy read. I want to read the second one. That's another fantasy read I'm trying to get to in November, but we'll see how that goes. This was a book. There's a show actually on Netflix too that I've seen the cover of the show and it looked really good, and then I just found this at the bookstore, but I haven't read that yet. Then we have some random books. Let's see. Full Dark No Stars. The Project by Courtney Summers. Sadie was a phenomenal book. I started this book and it just didn't have the same... It almost felt like it was written by somebody else because this was not very good. I didn't enjoy that at all. And then we have the House on Vesper Sands. This was a cover by. It just looked very gothic horror, so I'm hoping that that's a good book. The Wind Up Girl. That's got to be my husband's because I would not pick that book up. And then we have More Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. This is for my kids because they're fun. Beneath a Pale Sky. I read a little. I could not get into this book. I got it through a book box, and it just wasn't my thing. Children of the Fang by John Langham. Absolutely love him. And this is a very strange set of stories. We haven't got through it all. Me and my husband read it together, but the cover is amazing. That is like calling to me, man. Then we have The Rust Maidens. Strictly covered by Bram Stoker Award winner, so should be good, but I'm really starting to question them, so we'll talk about that later. The Queen of the Damned, definitely a husband by. Final Girls, Riley Sager. I bought this because it was cheap, because I'm not really a big fan of the final girl trope, but we'll see. We'll see. I like Riley Sager, so we'll see. The Guest List by Lucy Foley, not a fan. I'm not ever going to try and read that again. Growing Things by Paul Tremblay. I've heard really good things about that. Haven't got to that yet. Absolutely love this book. This is one of my favorite books of all time. The Southern Book Club's Guide to Vampire Slaying. I am somewhat of a Southern girl, and this book was hilarious and dark and demented at the same time. So good. So, just a little bit of everything. Gone Girl, absolute phenomenal book. Love Gillian Flynn. The Nightingale, this book broke my heart. I haven't even read it all, but it's very sad. I had to stop because I'm like, I'm not in the mood for that. His and Hers by Alice Feeney. This was a pretty good book. I got this through a book box, and I wasn't disappointed. I liked it. Let's see. The Winter People by Jennifer Mahone. I really like that book. That was actually on a recommendations list for new people to horror, so that's a good one. She Lies in Wait. I think I got that from a book box too, and I haven't read that yet. Let's see. I'll just grab the rest of these out. And then we have, let's see, The Angel of Darkness. So this is the same group of people that were in The Alienist. So the same detectives. And this is a really good book. This is a very sad book, but that's well worth the read. Caleb Carr's an amazing author. Ready Player One, would never read. The movie I did not like. This is my husband Rico's book, and it needs to get off my shelf, but I'll let it stay for now. And then we have The Chalk Man by C.J. Tudor. This was pretty good. I remember being a little disappointed, but it was fine. Wasn't not super to write home about, but this is my paperweight of The Hobbit. Well, The Hobbit, you got Gandalf, so that's cool. And then we have my spoon. I got this in a book box with Brother by Anya Alborn. And it says, I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti by Hannibal Lecter. So I kind of try and hide this from my kids so they're not like, what's that? Let's see. Now we have, this is kind of a catch-all, the bottom here. I don't even know where this came from. Anthem, I have no idea what that is. And then we have DMZ. That's more of my husband's. I don't really like stuff like that. I don't even know what that's about, but it looks boring. And then we have Black Summer. This was really good. I did like this. It's kind of a strange, almost cultish read, so that's good. And then we have The Book of Three. My son picked that out at a used bookstore. Yet another book he didn't read. And then we have Dean Koontz, Intensity. I read this book, but not in this form. And I did enjoy this book. This was a book I tried to get my husband to read with me. And I don't think he's ever fully recovered. And then we have Sin City. Haven't read it. Probably never will. I think this is like the graphic novel. Not into it. And then we have The Fifth Season. Couldn't tell you what that is. Let's see. Anything else on here that's really worth mentioning? We have The Reunion by Gillian Musso. I don't know. I don't know where I got this book either. I don't really know much about my shelf, if you couldn't guess. Ruth Ware, The Turn of the Key. I've been meaning to read this, but honestly forgot it was here. The Silent Girls by Eric Rixton. This book was really good and really sad. And then we have another Dean Koontz book. We got Chuck Palahniuk. This is Survivor. I'm sure that's probably one of Rico's. The Woman in Cabin 10, I absolutely hated this book and almost just decided, I did decide not to read the rest of it, and I'll never read that because I despise it. And then a dictionary because I'm smart, so that's why that's there. Idlewood, yet again another, the kind of book you simply don't want to stop reading, says Neil Gaiman, and I don't trust that guy, so I'm not ever going to read that. The Obelisk Gate, that looks pretty cool. Winner of the Hugo Award, so if you get that award, that's cool. The Battle of... More Dune books my husband's never going to read. He read the first one. He acts like he's going to read these. But
read the first three.
Oh, he's read the first three. I'm sorry. Did you like them? No. Then we have John Connolly. I don't know why I bought books this tiny. Like, I wear glasses and contacts, like, not at the same time, but I might have to if I'm reading a book this small. So, I mean, it was probably like 5 cents. I guess that's probably why I bought it. And then we have, let's see, Alice in Wonderland. I couldn't tell you. But that's a really cool cover. And then we have Hocus Pocus. This is a Kurt Vonnegut book. Terribly funny, as good as the best of his novels. Cat's Cradle, which is one of my husband's favorite books. This is more your shelf, honestly, than it is mine, I feel at this point. It's like, really? And then these are all, you know, more Dune, because he enjoyed him so much. More Dune books. And then we have, last but not least, The Long Goodbye by Raymond Chandler, and I was forced to read this in a class I was taking. But it was actually not that bad. Okay, so this is the other side of the top shelf. We're trying to kind of get it to where it makes most sense. But this is Sundial by Catcher on Award, and this is signed. My husband got this for me. Again, she's not leaving her name, her address, or her phone number. So I'm like, why are you signing my book then? So I got an issue with that, first of all. And then The Fisherman, one of my all-time favorite books forever. I mean, look at that cover. This book is gorgeous. This, too, is signed. So I'm not really sure what that is. This is like the sticker. I haven't put it in anything because I didn't know if I wanted to put it on the book. I made a mistake of doing that with Goblin, and I just smacked it in the book. And so now I'm like, maybe I should wait and think about that a little longer. But I have two because one I read, and then the other one is for looks only. And then we have Little Heaven by Nick Cutter. Favorite Nick Cutter book. I love this book so much. And this too is signed because my husband went all out. Again, there's no phone number, so I'm just questioning what's going on. Last House on Needless Street. You know I had to get a signed copy of this because this is my favorite book of all time. I love it. It loves me. And there you are. So now we have just some like Gothic stories. H.P. Lovecraft. And then There Were None. The Crooked House, which is an amazing story. We have The Yellow Sign by James Hodge. This was a really good book. The more I thought about this book, the more I really like it, and the more I need to really tell people about it. Elementals, absolute flawless Michael McDowell book. Unspeakable Things has been on my TBR for so long. I've got to get to that this summer. Darcy Coates, From Below. As you can see, I only made it halfway through, and it got shelved. I don't know. I might try and finish it this summer, but I'm not making any promises. And this book, Miss Claus and the Santa Landslings, I thought this was super cute. I'm going to read this in the winter, and it was only like $4. So that's really fun. The Three Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch. No idea. That's my husband's book. And then we have, this was a really good book. Well, my husband read it. I didn't read all of it. But this was a really good book. That's an amazing cover. That's really cool. My Little Friend by Donna Tartt. I've been wanting to read that. Paycheck. Rico's book again. The Sin Collector. This was kind of just a random buy at a used bookstore, but it looked really good. And I was like, oh, that sounds like something I'd want to read. And Vermilion. That's a cool cover. Probably never read that. Lovecraft's Legacy, an anthology of original horror tales in honor of H.P. Lovecraft. So that sounds kind of cool. God Bless You, Kurt Vonnegut, another one of Rico's books. This is a cute little, even more short and shivery stories. Kind of for the kids. Halloween Tree. This is very dark to actually read to kids. So I haven't read it to my kids, but I do love the cover. The Cabin at the End of the World. Kind of like I already mentioned, Paul Tremblay is literally in a league of his own by making you feel so hopeless and so much despair. So if you feel like wanting to really end it all, you should read that. And then we have one of my favorite books of all time, Gone to See the Riverman. Amazing cover. This is The Nightfall Gardens. This is the first book. See, that's how unorganized I am. I don't even have book 1 and book 2 by each other. And then we have The Reddening. I just read this not too long ago. I listened to it on Audible. It's kind of a fatty book, but it's really good. Well worth the read. Dracul. I was going to read this for Halloween. Just didn't get around to it. Clown in the Cornfield. This was pretty cool. My husband got this for me at one of the stores locally, and it had like a little note. A printed note from Adam Caesar, and it's signed. I really did enjoy this first book. Wasn't a big fan of the second one. And then we have Home Before Dark. This actually glows in the dark. You can't tell now, but this was a really good book. Pop It by Mo Hader. I'm going to get to this at some point, just not really sure when. And then we have Spirals by Uzumaki. And I haven't read Uzumaki Junjo Ito, but I haven't read this. I really want to. It's just kind of hard for me to get into graphic novels anymore. I don't know, not too excited about them. I'm sure it's a good book. Everyone has said it is. I just haven't got to it yet. Okay, onward, people. So now we have Clown in a Cornfield 2, Friendo Lives. This was the one, I hate to be negative about someone's book, and I really do love Adam Caesar. But I started to question, did I really even like the first one after I started reading that? And then we have, the cover has fallen off this because I read it so much in bed, but The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. Absolute gorgeous, phenomenal book. There's another copy of Clown in the Cornfield. That one's just not signed. And then we have The Shadow Man. This was $1 buy, but it looked pretty cool. What is this about? Great Masters of Horror, social workers, sad emotional things. So hopefully it'll be good. Another great book, In the Miso Soup. This was a really good book. This was a cool cover. I didn't expect to get this cover, but really enjoyed that book. We have Hex by Thomas Old Houvet. I'm sure that's probably wrong, but apparently I'm a dummy, so there you go. And then we have The Chestnut Man. Absolutely love this book. This book is so good, and the show is amazing, phenomenal. Brother, one of my favorite reads. You already know me and Anya Alborn go way back. We're best friends. This book was a strict cover buy, and I actually think this is like a sequel to another book, but I didn't care. I was like, oh, this looks so good. And yeah, that's a really good cover. And then we have Kill Creek by Scott Thomas. And I really love how it's almost like papers in there, so that's really cool. That's a good one. Let the Right Ones In. Phenomenal book. There's a show on Stars right now that's absolutely amazing. It's not very, I mean, it follows the basic storyline, the basic outline of this book, but the depth of depravity and the isolation and the sheer hopelessness you feel when reading this book is not conveyed in the show, but the show is amazing. And then we have The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane. This is a really good cover. Another Child Finder. I think I bought 2 of those on accident. And then The Silent Companion. You've heard me kind of talk about this book. It has its own review. This was a phenomenal book. I absolutely love this book. So good. The Death of Jane Eyre Lawrence. Haven't got to it yet, but it looks good in Gothic. The Twilight Zone. One of my favorite shows of all time. And this book is kind of cool. It's just, you know, different stories. And then we have Where the Crawdads Sing, which kind of stands out because I don't really have anything else like this. But this was a good book, and I enjoyed it. Another copy of Sundial that I actually read. I didn't read the one that's signed. The Lost Village by Camilla Stinn. Really good book. I enjoyed that. The Shadows by Alex North. This was a good, creepy police procedural book about a serial killer. Night Film. Absolutely love this book. If you like things like 8mm, things like that, this is where it's at. There's a little more cult aspect to this, which I enjoy. The Shining. This isn't the coolest cover I've seen of The Shining, but it's the one that I found. This is a really good book. I actually listened to that on Audible. The Stand. I actually have 2 copies of The Stand because this one was I just thought this was so cool, and it's so, you know, 80s looking. I listened to that on Audible, but I do have 2 different covers. I love that book. It's probably one of my favorite books of all time. The Outsider by Stephen King. Another phenomenal book of his. I mean, when he's good, he is so good. And then we have my favorite Stephen King book, Needful Things. Well, second favorite. My dog ate this. I'm kind of surprised this is all the damage he did. He's like 150 pounds, Borbal Mastiff. So how he got a tiny bite of that, I really don't know. And then moving on to the next one. Okay, so last but not least, this is my shrine to Pennywise. These are actually decorations for Halloween, but I use them on my shelf. We got this little guy right before Halloween, and it just looks so good on my shelf. And he is kind of cute, kind of creepy. It's kind of weird to wake up to this and see this in the corner, but that's okay. And then we have him coming out of a TV. I thought this was really cool. And obviously the book. Have a few signs. This is actually, I saw this on eBay. It's in Russian, so I'm not ever going to be able to read it, but I was like, oh my gosh, that cover is so cool. And it's just kind of like fun to own stuff that you think looks cool, I guess. And then we have this little book, Your Guide to Not Getting Murdered in a Quaint English Village. And then we have, I got to show you one more thing. This was on my shelf, so if you've seen my older videos, you may have seen Talking Tina already, and she does actually talk. I just haven't taken her out of the box yet because I just haven't, but she does talk, and she's actually really creepy, and I thought it was really cool that she was in black and white, and at first I was like, oh my gosh, that's so ridiculous. I don't need that doll, and then I kept thinking about it more, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, so we ended up getting it, and I don't really regret. She's winking at you. Oh my gosh, Tina, stop it. No, I was kidding. But yeah, so that's my bookshelf. I just thought it'd be kind of fun if you're like me, kind of nosy, wanting to see what someone's bookshelves have. And after kind of going through it, I think a lot of my books, almost the majority of my books are probably in my library on Audible. But, you know, so I try to get physical copies of books that I really enjoy, like my favorites, so I can have it for my bookshelf, but you don't always get there. So, but if you liked, my book tour, if you want to let me know how you felt about some of those books, hit me up in the comments and click that like and subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.